I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now because Harley-Davidson just lost $175 million in 6 months. And almost nobody is talking about the real reason why. Everyone thinks Harley's problems are about bad management, woke policies, or aging customers. Those are symptoms. The disease is Trump's tariff war, and it's killing America's most iconic motorcycle company right in front of our eyes. In the next 12 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how President Trump's tariffs have backfired so catastrophically that Harley-Davidson might not survive to 2027. We're talking about real bankruptcy risk for a company that's been building motorcycles for over 120 years. The numbers I'm about to share with you are not opinions or speculation. These are facts pulled directly from Harley's financial filings and public statements. And when you see the math, you're going to understand why Harley just made the most desperate announcement in their history. But before I break down exactly how Trump's tariffs destroyed Harley-Davidson's business model, I need you to do 3 things right now. First, smash that subscribe button. Here's why this matters to you, even if you don't own a Harley. What's happening to Harley-Davidson right now is a warning shot for every American company. If tariffs can destroy an icon like Harley, your favorite brand could be next. I'm one of the only channels giving you the real truth about what's happening in the motorcycle industry without corporate spin or political bias. Second, hit that notification bell. The situation with Harley is changing literally every week. When major news breaks, you need to hear about it immediately, not 3 weeks later when everyone else is talking about it. I'm tracking this story in real time and breaking news the moment it happens. Third, drop a comment right now telling me if you think Trump's tariffs are helping or hurting American manufacturing. I want to hear from both sides. This is going to be controversial, and the comment section is going to explode. Make sure you're part of that conversation. Now let's talk about how America's motorcycle company got destroyed by America's president. Here's what nobody outside the motorcycle industry understands. Harley-Davidson is getting crushed from 2 directions simultaneously, and both of them trace directly back to Trump's tariff policies. Direction 1, China tariffs on imported parts. Harley imports components from China because that's where manufacturing has moved over the past 30 years. Trump imposed tariffs of up to 145% on Chinese goods, which means Harley's cost to build every single motorcycle in America has skyrocketed. Direction 2, EU retaliation tariffs. When Trump imposed steel and aluminum tariffs, the European Union retaliated by specifically targeting American icons, bourbon whiskey, Levi's jeans, and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The EU slapped a 50% tariff on every Harley sold in Europe. Let me give you a concrete example of how insane this is. A Harley-Davidson Road Glide costs about $28,000 in America. That same motorcycle, after the 50% EU tariff and VAT taxes, costs over $124,000 in Denmark. $124,000 for a Road Glide. Who's going to pay that? Nobody. European sales have collapsed. Harley sold 40% fewer motorcycles in Europe in 2025 compared to 2024. That's not a gradual decline. That's a market destruction event. And here's where it gets worse. Harley can't just raise prices in America to offset the losses. American consumers are already stretched thin from inflation and high interest rates. Motorcycle sales across the entire industry are down. If Harley raises prices, buyers will just choose Indian, Japanese bikes, or nothing at all. So Harley is trapped. They're paying 145% more for Chinese parts. They're losing their second largest market to EU retaliation tariffs, and they can't pass those costs to American consumers without destroying demand. Let's look at exactly what this means in cold hard numbers, because the financial situation at Harley-Davidson is worse than most people realize. In the second quarter of 2025, Harley-Davidson reported revenue of $1.5 billion. That sounds okay until you realize it's down 23% from the same period in 2024. Revenue dropped by almost a quarter in 1 year, but revenue is just the beginning. Profit margins are where you see the real devastation. Harley's operating profit dropped 50%. They made half as much profit on each bike sold compared to the previous year. Why? Tariffs. The cost to build motorcycles increased, but Harley couldn't increase prices proportionally without killing demand. So their margins got crushed. Every bike they sell makes less money than it did 2 years ago. Here's the number that should terrify everyone. Harley-Davidson estimates that tariffs will cost them between $130 and $175 million in 2025 alone. That's money that just evaporates. It doesn't go to workers, doesn't go to innovation, doesn't go to shareholders. It's dead weight loss created by government policy, and it gets even worse. In May 2025, Harley-Davidson did something they almost never do. They suspended their full-year financial guidance. That means they literally told Wall Street, we have no idea what our business is going to look like by December because the tariff situation is so chaotic and unpredictable that we can't make forecasts. When a major corporation can't provide financial guidance, that's a red flag that the situation is out of control. Harley can't plan for the future because they don't know what tariff rates will be in 6 months. They don't know if the EU will increase retaliation tariffs. They don't know if China will impose new restrictions. This is not a sustainable business environment. This is a crisis. Now let's talk about Harley's response, because this is where the story gets really interesting. In late July 2025, Harley-Davidson announced something shocking. They're launching a new motorcycle in 2026 called the Sprint that will cost less than $6,000. For context, most Harleys cost between $15,000 and $45,000. A $6,000 Harley is unprecedented in the modern era. Everyone in the motorcycle media called this a genius strategic move. Harley is going after younger buyers who can't afford expensive bikes. They're competing with Royal Enfield and smaller displacement motorcycles. It's brilliant product diversification. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. The Sprint isn't genius strategy, it's desperation. And Trump's tariffs are a huge part of why. Think about the math. Harley is a premium brand that makes most of its profit on high-margin touring bikes and cruisers. A Road Glide costs $28,000 and probably has a profit margin of 20% or more. That's where Harley makes real money. Now, they're launching a $6,000 bike. At that price point, profit margins are razor thin, maybe 5 or 10% if they're lucky. Harley has to sell enormous volumes of Sprint motorcycles just to make the same profit they used to make on one Road Glide. But here's the problem. The entire motorcycle market is contracting. Total industry sales are down. Harley's traditional customer base is aging out and not being replaced fast enough. Where are these massive volumes of new customers going to come from? They're not. The Sprint isn't a growth strategy, it's a survival strategy. Harley needs to find any way to generate revenue and stay relevant as their core market collapses under the weight of tariffs, inflation, and changing demographics. Here's the part that should make everyone furious, regardless of your politics. Trump's stated goal with tariffs is to protect American manufacturing and bring jobs back to America. America First is supposed to help companies like Harley-Davidson thrive. Instead, it's having the exact opposite effect. Harley-Davidson is one of the most American companies in existence. They manufacture in America. They employ American workers. They represent American culture globally. If any company should benefit from America First policies, it should be Harley. But they're not benefiting. They're being destroyed. And here's the cruelest irony of all. Trump's tariffs are so damaging to Harley's business that the company has already announced plans to move more production overseas to avoid tariffs. In 2018, when the EU first imposed retaliation tariffs, Harley announced they would shift production of motorcycles sold in Europe to their international facilities. They're building bikes in Thailand, India, and Brazil specifically to avoid the tariff costs of exporting American-made motorcycles. So, America First tariffs are forcing America's motorcycle company to move jobs out of America. The policy is achieving the opposite of its stated goal. Trump has repeatedly criticized Harley-Davidson for this decision, claiming they're betraying American workers. But what choice does Harley have? If they build everything in America, the EU tariffs make their motorcycles unsellable in Europe. They lose the entire market. Moving production overseas is not a choice. It's survival, and it's a direct consequence of Trump's tariff policy. So, where does this leave Harley-Davidson? There are basically 3 scenarios, and only one of them has a happy ending. Scenario 1. The tariff war ends. Trump negotiates deals with China and the EU that remove or significantly reduce tariffs. Harley's costs drop back to manageable levels. European sales recover, and the company stabilizes. This is the best-case scenario, but it requires political solutions that seem unlikely in the current environment. Scenario 2. The tariff war continues at current levels. Harley muddles through with lower margins, reduced sales, and continued financial pressure. They stay in business, but never return to their previous profitability or market position. The Sprint and other affordable bikes become their main business as they abandon the premium market they built their brand on. Harley survives, but becomes a shadow of what it was. Scenario 3. The situation gets worse. Tariffs increase, the global economy contracts further, and Harley can't sustain the losses. We've seen major American companies go bankrupt before. It's not impossible. If Harley's losses continue at the current pace and they can't access financing, bankruptcy becomes a real possibility within 3 to 5 years. Which scenario is most likely? Based on current trends, scenario 2. Harley will probably survive in diminished form. But the company that emerges from this crisis will be fundamentally different from the Harley-Davidson that dominated American motorcycling for generations. Here's the bottom line that everyone needs to understand. Trump's tariffs have done catastrophic damage to Harley-Davidson. The $175 million in direct costs are just the beginning. The real damage is the destroyed European market, the impossibility of long-term planning, and the forced abandonment of their core business model. Harley-Davidson is not dying because of bad leadership or poor products. They're dying because government policy has made it impossible to operate profitably. That's the hard truth that nobody wants to acknowledge. And here's what should scare everyone. If tariffs can do this to Harley-Davidson, what's happening to smaller American manufacturers that don't have Harley's resources and brand recognition? How many American companies are quietly dying because of tariff costs that nobody is tracking? This is not about partisan politics. This is about policy outcomes. The data shows clearly that Trump's tariffs are hurting Harley-Davidson far more than they're helping. Whether you support Trump or oppose him, the numbers don't lie. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Trump's tariffs are worth the damage they're doing to companies like Harley? Or should tariff policy change to protect American manufacturers? Drop your take in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to understand what's really happening to Harley-Davidson, share this video with them. Subscribe to this channel for more honest analysis of the motorcycle industry without the corporate BS or political spin. Hit that bell so you don't miss the next update when this situation inevitably gets worse. Remember, the truth matters more than comfortable narratives, always.